Well, while you guys are starting to clean up a little bit, I would just like to say good morning. It is very nice to see everyone here. Usually we host this event in January, and the weather is horrible. So at least nobody had to worry about the sleet, snow, ice, freezing cold. So thank you for attending. I'm going to run through some introductions. If you would like to stand up, please do so. If not, maybe just raise your hand so everybody can see that you are here. I'm going to start off with our commissioners, Mr. Doug Spencer, Mr. David Bombar, Mr. John Bergman, and Auglaize County Sheriff Mike Voorhees. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. I have here today Kim Waterman from New Knoxville Schools, Marcus Overman from New Bremen Schools, and Brenda Boki from Minster Schools. We also have our village administrator, Don Herod from Minster, police chief from Minster, David Friend, and a few other council members, Tom Herkenoff, Kurt Albers, and Craig Oldigus. Village of New Bremen brought the whole crew today from what I hear. We have our village administrator, Brent Richter, fiscal officer, Amy Spielman, police chief, Mike Skinner, and the council members, Don Cook, Jim Cronenberger, Jacob Larger, Jessica Lamakin, Dennis Burnell, and Chad Webker. And from my understanding, this is the first time everybody's been in attendance for this one. Village of New Knoxville, this year, first year, village administrator Larry Kellemeyer, fiscal officer Abby Homan, police chief Chris McKinney, and council members Carolyn Bach, Juanita Williams, Dwayne Steinecker. And my support system. And if you guys would stand up, that is my only request, please. My chamber board for this year. Mr. Todd Wygant is my board president. Ted Bergstrom is my vice president. Stephanie Heitkamp is my treasurer this year. And I also have Anna Rammel, Carolyn Bach, Doug Rentz, David Oliver, Jake Bruns, and Jim Wellman. Thank you all for all of your support. Cannot do this job without a wonderful, strong board of directors. At this moment, I would like to have all of those who are veterans of the armed forces please stand. We would like to recognize you for your service. Thank you for your service. I would also like to recognize the villages of Minster, New Bremen, and New Knoxville for their support of this event and of the chamber. Now we will get to the other remarks. I would like to welcome our out-of-town guests. We have Senate President Matt Huffman. Patrick McCauley is the Public Affairs Liaison for Treasurer Robert Sprague's office. Congressman Jim Jordan. Representative Susan Manchester. And I do have two video remarks today that I will play from Senator Sherrod Brown and Senator Robert Portman. So at this time, I would like to welcome President Matt Huffman to the podium.
Thanks very much. It's great to be back here. I spend a lot of time in Columbus, as you know, and when I walked in this morning, I was fumbling around in my pocket looking for a mask, and I left it in the car. Maybe I can get away without it. And I walked in here and I went, I'm back in Western Ohio. Okay, perfect, perfect. A couple quick things that I think are of interest to especially Western Ohio. We passed a transportation budget yesterday. In 2007, I introduced a bill with Jim Zeringer to try to raise the force account limits for local communities, villages, townships, and counties. Now, a force account is an amount of money that local jurisdictions can spend on road projects, bridges and culverts and paving, without having to go out to public bid. And what's happening right now is, and those force accounts have not changed since 2003. For 18 years, it's been the same limit. And the result of that is that there are road projects that the amount of those projects are so small, maybe $40,000 or $50,000, that no contract, especially when there's a lot of federal highway money available, no contractor wants to do, but the local county engineer in villages and townships are prohibited from doing the work. So we got the money, but the law doesn't allow us to fix this bridge. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? So in Allen County, and this is true, I represent 7 counties. All my county engineers have called me about this. In Allen County, as an example, there are 42 bridges that either are closed or weight limited. If the force account limits were simply raised to $100,000 from I think it's $45,000 for bridges right now, our county engineer could go out and fix 18 of those bridges right now. So instead, folks accessing those bridges, a lot of those are folks in tractors and other things in agriculture. They have to go an extra several miles around those bridges. So I'm back on this issue after 14 years to try to get it fixed. We put in the transportation budget an automatic escalator starting July 1st, but we have to make up for the last 18 years. So we created a work group that by May 15th will make findings and recommendations, and it's my intention as the President of the Senate to make sure that this is in the operating budget by June 30th. So our local engineer, county engineers, and our villages and townships can get to work on those projects and get them done. And the one thing everybody agrees about in government is everybody wants to be able to drive someplace and make sure that it's safe and the wheels don't fall off of your car. So that's an important thing we did just yesterday. A second thing that we did is both the Senate and the House, including Representative Manchester, with her vote in support in the House, and Speaker Cupp, overrode the governor's veto. Senate Bill 22 he vetoed, and essentially what the bill does is put the legislature back at the table regarding these health orders. The legislature will be able to end an emergency after 30 days, will be able to affect certain health orders, and I guess need to go into detail. I think all of you have lived this over the past year. Some of the inconsistencies, the contradictions in the medical evidence. The short answer is, in a republic, your elected representatives, and especially your local elected representatives who go to Columbus, need to be at the table to make these decisions. So I get the question, well, hey, Huffman, you're not a doctor. Why should you be involved in health? Well, I'm not a farmer either, but I make a lot of decisions about agriculture. And by the way, regarding health, make a lot of decisions about the scope of practice for licensed practice nurses, what doctors can do, all sorts of health decisions. We do that all the time. I should also add that the governor is not a medical doctor. He takes advice from experts, and those experts have told him certain things, and we know that other experts have said the opposite of what the governor's experts have said, including some of the world's leading epidemiologists who are now concluding that much of the shutdown was a huge mistake. And, if we really want to get better at governing, we need to be able to say, here's what we did right, here's what we did wrong. We don't want to repeat our mistakes, we want to do the right things. But more importantly, when we live in a republic, which we do, read your Constitution, you're elected, the General Assembly makes the laws. The governor only has the authority that the Constitution and the General Assembly gives to the governor. That's where he gets its powers. So we need to make sure that the legislature is at the table. So the governor's a little bit unhappy today. I don't consider this a victory for the legislature. That's not what these things are about. It's about a balance of power, and it's about making a better process, and I think we probably did that. So I have one more thing to do and say, because I'm probably at the end of my time limit, or perhaps, where's Marcus? I need to have Marcus come up. I forget Marcus' last name. Marcus Overman, who is the principal of New Bremen Junior and Senior High School. And a few weeks ago, well, I guess it was back in November, my Lima Central Catholic Thunderbird football team was playing in the state semifinal game. And Cheryl and I went down to Wapak. They made me wear masks. Well, they told me to wear a mask at an outdoor football game. And I'm glad nobody took my picture that night. But I saw one of the best football games that I've seen in a long time. And we were thrashed by the New Bremen Cardinals. And so we regularly have football teams and other sports champions come down to the state capitol. I'm going to start that up in the Senate after we come back after our spring break. Will be mid-April-ish. We're going to start having teams come back. But since I was here today, I wanted to present this to the principal on behalf of the Ohio Senate, this resolution. And I just wanted to point out to Congressman Jordan, now, Jim, if a T-Bird is willing to present this resolution to a New Bremen Cardinal, you need to go to Speaker Pelosi and say, well, those two can get together. We ought to be able to get some stuff done, okay? So, Marcus, on behalf of the Ohio Senate, thank you very much. Congratulations. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And our next video remark will come from Senator Sherrod Brown.
I'm Sherrod Brown. It's an honor to serve Glaze County in Ohio, in the country, in the United States Senate. Thank you for having me at the South Glaze County Chamber of Commerce. As we look at how we fight and recover from this pandemic, we have to make sure that our recovery reaches all Americans. We're proud of our home. We're proud of our cities. We're proud of our legacy. It's part of our role as leaders to stand up for them. I've worked to get communities, regardless of size, the resources that you all need to get through this current crisis. And now I believe we have opportunities to not just get through this emergency, but to build a stronger economy on the other side that invests in the whole country and works for everyone, not just those on the coast, not just those at the top. Last week, we passed the American Rescue Plan. It put shots in people's arms, money in people's pockets, people back to work, and put our children back in school. It also gets more help to small businesses and minority-owned businesses. It includes more dollars for PPP, more dollars for restaurants and bars and venues. And I know that's important to Wapak and Minster and all of Western Ohio. It provides new community navigators to help businesses through the process of getting help. Small businesses don't, large, big chains, they benefited from these programs because they have the paid staff to be able to do it. It's the little businesses that I'm particularly interested in. We took care of them this year in a way we hadn't in the past. I know how important this is to so many of your members. We know PPP's been a big help to a lot of Ohioans despite its problems. In the December package, we passed improvements like making the expenses covered by PPP loans tax deductible and simplifying the loan forgiveness process. All important steps that you all asked me to make and advocate for in this new package. In the American Rescue Plan, we secured more funding to PPP. We expanded it to include more nonprofits, more non-traditional businesses, more small companies. We restarted more the state small business credit initiative, a successful program that will get more small businesses access to capital. That money goes to states to create their own support programs. It gives all of you, the states, and communities like Glaze County, the flexibility to fund a range of support programs, including venture capital. Something I know is important to your part of Ohio, just to the southern part of Glaze County, is the rescue plan includes dedicated, flexible funding to state and local governments based on my legislation, Direct Support for Communities Act, which came from ideas from conference calls, especially from smaller Ohio counties. I grew up in Richland County, a county bigger than Wapak and Minster and smaller communities, but important counties, small counties which are not always heard. And I took those messages back and had that kind of influence over this legislation. It ensures that the local portion of the funding goes directly to our cities and towns and villages and counties. Local government won't have to wait and beg Columbus to get funding that passes through state government. This is a plan that meets the moment. Now that we've passed the rescue plan, I'll just mention briefly what we do next. Last month, I took over as chair of the Housing, Banking, and Urban Affairs Committee. People often refer to this committee as simply the Banking Committee for short. I don't, because this Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee was pretty much always about banking and Wall Street, not enough about housing, and little about much of anything else. That's going to change. We want a big investment in American infrastructure. That's highways and bridges and water and sewer. It's also schools. It's also broadband. It's also what we need for local communities. When we talk about broadband, we mean it for infrastructure, we mean it in the broadest sense. That's public education. As I said, it's transit, it's small bus routes that pick up people going to the doctor, and it's big city buses in places south of you in Dayton. It's also broadband to make sure it reaches to communities far and wide. It means R&D and technologies that support the middle class jobs of the future. And when we make this kind of transformative investment that our country needs, we can direct more investments to the kinds of communities that have simply been overlooked by politicians of both parties and frankly by state government in Washington, overlooked by Wall Street, overlooked by Columbus, whether that's small towns, whether it's proud industrial areas and small cities where I grew up, whether it's Black and brown communities, whoever it is. Thank you so much for your engagement and all you do for your community.
All right, next up, we have, make sure I get the right order. Pat McCauley, are you ready, sir? All right, come on up.
Well, good morning. I am Pat McCauley, and I'm the Northwest Ohio Public Affairs Liaison for Treasurer Sprague. Treasurer Sprague sends his best. He is unable to be here this morning because of previous commitments. Well, like many have, the Treasurer's Office has continued to operate at full strength during this pandemic. The office has ensured that it continues to improve the lives of Ohio residents through trusted stewardship, wise investment, and bold innovation. And a shining example of that this year is the official launch of Treasurer Sprague's Results Ohio initiative. This program allows innovators to pursue pay-for-success projects aimed at tackling the most pressing social and public health concerns of the state. The office announced 7 programs deemed pay-for-success appropriate and ready that range from increasing vision of children to workforce development and finally to also decreasing preterm births. One project in particular that hits home in Northwest Ohio is Rural Action, which aims to improve water quality in the western Lake Erie basin watershed by reducing phosphorus runoff, by restoring wetlands and stream channels. All 7 of these projects are advocating for funding in the General Assembly through the state budget process. The office's Stable program saw much success this past year. Stable allows individuals with disabilities to save money in 529-like accounts specializing in saving and investment without jeopardizing what they receive from federal programs like Medicaid. Normally, you can only have $2,000 in your account if you have a disability before you have to do a spend down, or else it affects what you receive from the government. With this program, individuals can save up to $15,000 annually. And in the past year, Treasurer Sprague has more than doubled the participation in this program to 21,000 active accounts with over $203 million in total contributions. Additionally, the office is also working with local governments and businesses on a direct deposit option for employees to contribute to a family member's account or a friend's account, or if the individual themselves is able to work, they can contribute to their own stable account. The state of Ohio, City of Marion, and our friends up in Allen County are just a few of the entities that have increased the savings power for individuals with disabilities by offering a stable direct deposit option to their employees. This year, the Treasurer's Office also took steps to assist families who want to adopt but are hindered by the $50,000 cost that goes along with it. Now these families can get assistance through a new link deposit program called Family Forward, which allows families to receive up to $50,000 through their local financial institution at a reduced financing rate, which will help ease the financial burden of adoption. Treasurer Sprague and the office, we continue to work to better Ohio communities through all of our programs. The Ohio Market Access Program for local governments, ohiocheckbook.gov, and the STAR Ohio program are just a few that you may have heard of. If you want to learn more about these, please visit tos.ohio.gov or contact me personally. I'd be happy to assist you in any way. Thank you again to Sarah and the Chamber and to all of you for allowing me this opportunity to speak this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. The next video remark comes from Senator Robert Portman.
Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Rob Portman. It's really great to be able to give all of you at the Southwestern Auglaize Chamber an update on the road ahead in Washington and what we're working on in Congress to make a difference in the lives of Ohioans. As you know, the biggest challenge our country faces today still is this COVID-19 virus, 1 year into this unprecedented pandemic. I'm pleased that things are starting to look up, thanks to the increasing number of safe and effective vaccines becoming available. I did not support the most recent partisan $1.9 trillion spending package supported by the Biden administration and the Democratic leadership. Unfortunately, much of that $1.9 trillion is not related to COVID-19, and I supported an alternative which spent much less money but was much more effective and targeted. I believe our focus moving forward needs to be on policies that address the most immediate healthcare needs, including the development and distribution of the vaccines, of course, while incentivizing a return to work and a return to school so our economy can continue to improve. Beyond our work on the COVID-19 response, there are a lot of other areas where I am looking to work on both sides of the aisle to make a difference. We're working to address the addiction epidemic that has sadly surged during this pandemic. We have new bipartisan bills like the TREATS Act to be sure people can get the care they need, the Fight Fentanyl Act to be sure fentanyl is an illegal drug, and the upcoming Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act 2.0 legislation. I'm proud to say that the Mental Health and Recovery Service Board of Allen, Auglaize, and Hardin counties has endorsed the TREATS Act. We are working to promote a strong economic recovery by passing My Jobs Act to get better worker training skills in place, to get students the skills they need from technical institutions like the TriStar Career Compact in Salina to fill the jobs that are becoming available as we reopen. We're working to achieve a bipartisan bicameral agreement on retirement reform by passing my Bipartisan Retirement Security and Savings Act to expand savings opportunities, 401ks, IRAs, and so on for those who need it the most. This Congress, I'm also serving as the ranking member on the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee. In that position, I have the opportunity to lead bipartisan efforts into critical issues affecting our homeland security and our national security. One example is the work we're doing to bolster our cyber defenses, the cyber security efforts in the wake of the massive SolarWinds hack from last fall in particular. I look forward to conducting oversight into the federal response to the COVID-19 pandemic as well. While I'm hopeful we're approaching the turning point in this battle, and I've got some good news from Ohio today about more people getting the vaccine, we've got to be diligent and ensure that the government is handling all of the challenges of this crisis in the appropriate way and not wasting money. So there's a lot for us to do to accomplish in the coming weeks and months, and there's plenty more we have in the works to get done. I look forward to continuing to work on behalf of all of you and all Ohioans to get results. Yes, to work across the aisle, to figure out the best plans, and to actually have accomplishments. Thanks so much for your interest in what we're doing here in D.C. Hope to see you in Auglaize County soon. Godspeed.
All right, next up, Congressman Jim Jordan.
Sarah, thank you, and Todd for your leadership, and all of you for your leadership as well. Matt was right. The difference between West Central Ohio and Columbus is big, but it's even bigger between Washington and West Central Ohio. It's good to be out here with good folks. Thank you for giving me the chance and the privilege to represent you now for 26 years in one office or another. You know, God help you. God bless you for doing that. But we do appreciate the privilege that we have to represent you now in the United States Congress. It's about freedom. I mean, don't miss what Matt got done, Matt and Susan, with this veto override. You want the people who you elect having the power. That is where we, the people, have real freedom. The people we directly elect into office, they should be making decisions on our behalf, not unelected people, not bureaucrats. This is an important thing that they got done, and it frankly wouldn't have happened without Matt's leadership as the Senate President. Matt is the right kind of guy to run our state Senate, and Susan's doing a great job representing you as well. In Washington right now, I'm very nervous. You know, we got this group that we formed called the Freedom Caucus, and I tell people all the time, there's a reason we picked the term freedom, because that's what it's really about. In the last 4 weeks, and I'm going to be a little partisan here, but you can grab me afterwards and yell at me if you want to. But in the last 4 weeks, the Democrats have passed legislation that radically changes election law. In the House, they've done this. Radically changes election law, radically changes police law, radically changes gun law. And last week, while there is a crisis on the border, they passed 2 bills which give amnesty to 3 million illegal immigrants at a time when we know in fact, we're going down to the border in a week and a half. We know there's a major crisis there. This is coupled all that with the $1.9 trillion spending package. Only 9% of it was actually for any type of COVID relief. Most of it was just crazy spending to left-wing groups. And it is dangerous where they are heading. Think about this fact. In the last 15 months, we have doubled the money supply. That has never happened in the history of this great country, throwing that much cash out there. And it is, right now, the economy is good, it's strong here, but you're already starting to see prices go up, the price of materials go up. I am very nervous long-term what that means for economic growth in our nation. And now you got the Biden administration talking about spending $3 trillion more. And on top of that, they want to raise taxes. You know, someone asked the question, it's kind of interesting. Why do you need to raise taxes if you can just deficit spend? If you're just going to borrow the money, print the money, and throw it out there, why do you need to raise taxes? Sort of shows you where this administration want to go. And then the final thing I'll mention is, when I talk about freedom, I mean it. It is scary. This term that we didn't even know about a year and a half ago. I'm on the Judiciary Committee. That is the committee that's supposed to be most responsible for protecting your fundamental liberties. And we have had this phenomenon now, this term we learned about a year and a half ago, cancel culture, where if you say the wrong thing, you think the wrong thing, you're going to get attacked. And some of it's kind of funny, you know, it's Dr. Seuss, and it's the Looney Tunes, and it's the Muppets and all that. But it's real, too. Barry Weiss was former editor at the New York Times, not a conservative. Actually, she was on the left. And she wrote a piece when she resigned. She said, you engage in wrong think, you engage in wrong speak, you're going to face what she termed the digital Thunderdome. People are going to attack you. The woke mob's going to come after you online, go after your family, go after your employer. It is a dangerous place to be where we're at right now with your fundamental, your First Amendment liberties. I tell people all the time, do you have a functioning First Amendment when only one side's allowed to speak? Do you have free speech when only the left can define what gets said? And that's the position we're in. So I'm nervous about that. Maybe the best example is I've been using this in the sports world. I mean, think about this. About a year ago, Drew Brees, I mean, apple pie, all-American guy, said we should stand for our national anthem. Remember the abuse he took? It's crazy. James Harden wore a support our law enforcement, back the blue mask, and he got harassed for supporting our great law enforcement. But the best one was the football coach at Oklahoma State. Did you follow this story? Mike Gundy, did you follow this? Mike Gundy, football coach at Oklahoma State, goes fishing with his family, posts a picture online, great day fishing. He's wearing a One American News shirt, conservative news organization t-shirt. Posts a picture online, almost lost his job. Almost lost his job for fishing in the wrong shirt in America. So freedom, it's truly about this. And right now, this is, again, why it's so important what Matt and Susan did, pushing back on this this ever oppressive thing and limiting our liberties. Think about COVID. In the last year, we were told we couldn't go to church, couldn't go to work, couldn't go to school, couldn't go to a loved one's funeral. Meanwhile, the governor of California goes to a 5-star restaurant with lobbyists and friends at the same time he's telling us we can't have Thanksgiving with our family. Remember that? So what they did is critical. The left now controls every single major institution in our country. They control big Hollywood, they control big media, they control big tech, they control higher education, they control federal government, every single place. The only thing they don't control, state and local government. Folks, all of you, the left doesn't control that. They don't control the State House. This is why it's so important we speak out, push back every chance we get, you know. But here's the good news, it's still America. I got rolling there, and it's, I need to stop, but it's still America. It's the best thing going. I think if we can keep, and maybe I'll finish with this, if we can keep the filibuster in place, and this is this convoluted process the United States Senate has the rules that basically require 60 votes to do anything. And it's frankly a good thing when you see what the left is trying to do to the country. We need to keep that in place. If we do, we hold them off for the next year and a half. I think the party I belong to, the Republican Party, I think we're going to take back the House in 2022. And then this is just how American politics works. Then we as Republicans will pass legislation in the House. It won't get signed, it won't become law, but we'll pass it in the House that says, here's how we will do tax policy, here's how we'll do border security, here's how, we'll show the contrast. And you frame up the 2024 presidential election, and then you have a presidential election. And that's I think what our job is right now. I told my colleagues in the House, a couple weeks ago, I said, when the left is doing the radical things they're doing, I mean, I'd like to work with the Democrats. I really would, and find something that we can unify around that's good for the country. They're so radical, I don't see how we can. So when they're doing the radical things they're now doing, the only thing you can do, and I told this to my colleagues, with all 200 of us Republicans in a room together talking, I said, our job is real simple. Get in their way and then go tell the American people why it was appropriate we got in their way. And slow them down and stop the crazy things that they want to do to our great country. And if we do that, we'll be fine. You know, and the good news is it's the spring. You guys know how to do things right out here. Baseball's coming, right? What's opening day? 5-6 days away. That's always a good time for the country. Maybe I'll finish with this. One of my favorite statements is made by speaking of baseball, is made by a Hershiser. Got pitched for the Dodgers, took him to the World Series championship. And he had a great line. He said, great things can happen to ordinary people who work hard and never give up. Great things can happen to ordinary people who work hard and never give up. And I tell folks, my favorite word in the statement is the word ordinary. Stop and think about it. We're all just regular, ordinary folks. Nobody's any better than anybody else. We're all in need of God's grace. But in this country, ordinary people don't have to do ordinary things. They can do great things. They can do extraordinary things if they're willing to work hard and never quit. And we see that play out in West Central Ohio all the time. We saw it with the football team. I know those guys worked hard to win their that is what makes America special, and parents work hard so their kids can have life better than they did. They become family parents. They do the same thing for them, and we get this amazing thing we call America. My concern is if the left continues to push things in the direction they want to go, that statement won't be true in the future. And that's what we got to protect. So that statement, so ordinary people can still accomplish amazing things like you all know how to do out here in this part of our great country. So God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. All right, next up, Representative Susan Manchester.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is really good to be here with you all today. I must say I got kind of a tough act to follow here, but I'm so grateful to have Congressman Jordan and Senate President Matt Huffman with us today. Both gentlemen have been tremendous mentors to me, and so I'm just grateful to be serving alongside of them. And, you know, I have a newfound respect for what Congressman Jordan deals with because he's in Washington for days at a time. He doesn't get to come home every night like I do to come back to reality. So I'm just so grateful we have such a strong voice in Washington for our values. I've always said that I represent the strongest, most supportive communities in the state of Ohio, and I think this past year, despite its challenges, has highlighted that more than ever because my district is filled with communities of people people that get up every day and go to work to keep this country running. And I'm just so thankful for all that you guys do. Like I said, it's been an extremely challenging year. We've had to deal with unprecedented shutdowns and grabs on our freedom. And I just want to say to all of you who own businesses, who work in the schools, who work in healthcare, thank you for all that you've been through this year. I know it hasn't been easy, and I think that the vote I took yesterday to override the governor's veto was probably the easiest vote I've ever taken. So again, just thank you for all that you do. I'm excited to be in my second term as your state representative. This year I am serving on the Health Committee, the Education Committee, and I'm now chairing a new committee on families, aging, and human services. So really looking forward to that and those opportunities. As always, you can always contact my office if there's anything that you need. My best ideas come from you, so please never hesitate to reach out. Happy to help and happy to share your story in Columbus. So again, thank you guys.
Thank you, Representative Manchester. And I know if any of you guys have to leave, please do so. I just want to personally thank you for making the time out of your busy schedules to come and speak to everybody. Next up, we will hear from our wonderful mayors of our communities. We have with us today Mayor Keith Leffel, Village of New Knoxville, Mayor Dennis Kitzmiller, Village of Minster, and Mayor Robert Parker, Village of New Bremen. First up, we're going to have Mayor Leffel.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Sarah and Todd and for actually hosting this. You know, we were talking earlier, you know, probably as mayors, we really don't enjoy getting up and speaking, but the good thing is we're forging ahead. The thing I like best about coming here, you see a lot of the familiar faces that you know from other communities, and it's really good to see people again and get back doing the things we need to do. So everyone talked about it was a challenging year, and you know, I agree with that, but you've heard me talk before as far as when it comes to Village of New Knoxville, it's all about growth, and we're looking for growth. And so actually, through all this, we've continued that, okay? Our income tax, we had a lot of businesses that were declared essential, so our income tax pretty much stayed where it was from the previous years. And likewise with our growth, we've seen 18 building permits go up in Knoxville this last year. German Farmers Mutual Insurance redid their facility, opened a new business. We had the ribbon cutting there last week, and the commissioners finished their terminal there at the airport, which looks great. So if you get out there, check that out. It's really a top-notch facility. And so we continue to see the growth. Our revenues came in just a little bit over $3.2 million, and our expenditures came in at $2.7. So all our key indicators were similar to what we did in years past. So I want to thank our group. I mean, we have a great staff, and we have a great council, and it made things go a lot smoother for us in this difficult year. The other thing, you know, I just want to take some time and talk about our fire department, our police department, and all those volunteers. So what were we doing last year at this time? If I remember right, this is right around where they said we had to hunker down for 2 weeks, right? So kind of what started was, and I don't know who actually started it, but someone donated some money to Main Street and said, hey, let's find a way when we're in this shutdown to take care of some of our elderly people and just provide a meal. It's maybe not that they needed the meal, but just as a way of a support system. So kind of what happened was Main Street took the lead. Abby, our fiscal officer, was in charge of the list, and then we got some volunteers. So the fire department, we had every truck out there delivering some meals. We had the police department. We had numerous volunteers out there delivering meals, and it grew. So my wife and I were on the list. We grabbed our list. We kind of went to the part we always did every week. So we did this on a Thursday, and we'd go and I'd drop a meal off to some of the elderly people, and they say, well, you know, here's $20 or here's $100. So next thing you know, our fund at Main Street started to grow and grow and grow, and we were delivering more meals. So this went on for a little bit over, I think we did it for about 8 weeks, and it was a way to support. So when I travel and I hear people and they say, you know, where are you from? And I say New Knoxville. You know, some things haven't changed, right? We still have one stoplight and we still have 2 phone booths, right? So I tell people, if you get somewhere and you find another village that has 1 stoplight and 2 phone booths, I'll take you out for dinner. Because I'd like to see that place. But there's a reason why I like living where we live in our community, in our county, is that's just those simple things, right? We managed to make it through, and we came out looking pretty good. So, you know, I think appreciate our representatives doing what they do and representing us, but it all comes down to what we do. So I like to thank our first responders, our fire department, and, you know, our police department. Our calls were up on the fire department side. You know, obviously they're dealing with COVID, first responders, and stop and think about that. Those people are volunteers. So they've got their own families, they're doing their own jobs, yet they're going out and they're helping people. So I really appreciate what they did. And on the police side of things, we actually seen our calls go down, right? Because we didn't have many people out driving, things weren't moving as fast as what they were. But so anyways, I'm gonna just end on that note, you know, and we're looking forward to next year, and I wanna thank all those people that made last year go as good as it could be, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Leffel. Next up, Mayor Kitzmiller.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and listening to, I guess, what we have to say today. As I do about every year, I give you a few things of what happened in 2020 and what we hope to get accomplished in 21. What started out like a normal year certainly changed quickly and proved to be far from what we consider normal. But we have all adapted to a new normal in the way we communicate, conduct business, socialize, and the village of Minster was no different. Council held its first virtual council meeting. Office buildings were closed to the public. Employees drove separate vehicles to the same job site, and masks became commonplace. All the changes that we had to adapt to in 2020, but one thing that hasn't changed is the village's continued effort to meet the needs of the residents and the businesses. As the pandemic became apparent, the village took a very cautious approach to spending and reducing our overall spending. However, what we thought would be a down year turned out to be a pretty good year for us. The village took in a little over $4 million in income tax, which is the 3rd highest amount that we've ever collected, which was a big surprise to the village. Even though the village tightened its belt, we were able to work on a number of projects, and those projects are the completion of the Northwest Sanitary Sewer Project involved the reconstruction of 2nd Street and a portion of South Garfield. Our annual minor resurfacing program, which included the paving of a portion of Hamilton, 3rd, 5th, and Bentzman Road. The installation of 8 new pickleball courts and 2 full-size basketball courts at the Four Seasons Park. The installation of new playground equipment at the Four Seasons Park. The installation of a new pool liner at the pool. The completion of the 2nd phase of the village's solar field. This new solar field, combined with the current solar field, provides the village with 9 megawatts of electric generated by the sun. This makes up 13% of the village's annual usage. The installation of new entrance signs on both north and south Route 66 were installed as part of a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout project. Other significant things that happened in 2020, the annexation of a little over 18 acres of ground into the village at the northeast corner of Minster and 7th Street. This new acreage in the village will accommodate both commercial and residential growth. The village welcomed in 4 new businesses in town. These include Chiltex Heating and Cooling, Wilson Health Urgent Care, Fastenal, and C.A. Layton, who took over the operation and ownership of the foundry. The village, through funds received from the COVID, we were able to distribute $75,000 worth of business relief grants to over 15 businesses to help them through the COVID-19 pandemic. We renewed a contract with Efficiency Smart to provide energy efficient services for both residents and businesses who are served by the village's electrical system. We donated an old fire truck used by the Minster Jackson Township Fire Department, which was given out to Midwest Missions Distribution, and this truck was then sent to Guatemala, where they're now currently using it as a fire truck. Saw the Electric Department awarded the APPA RP3 designation for the 4th time. This designation recognizes the department's effort in planning, safety, and workforce development. 44 building permits were issued in 2020 with a total investment of nearly $4 million. Of those, 5 were for new homes valued at slightly under $2 million, and 3 were for commercial and industrial permits valued at slightly over $1.1 million. Eyeing the future for 2020 looks to be another busy year for the village, and these are some projects that we're looking into. We are working with CDM engineering firm to design and bid out the construction of a new water tower to replace the old water tower on North Ohio Street. The improvement of East 7th Street in the village, improvement will be a complete reconstruction of East 7th Street from Main to just east of Hamilton. The completion of the village's newest electrical substation is located on North Ohio Street and has been mostly constructed by the village's own electrical crews. We're going to make some improvements to the Deuce Ditch Tile, which will provide much better drainage around the surrounding Four Seasons Park. We welcomed in 2 new residential subdivisions, the 2nd phase of Stonegate subdivision on East 7th Street and the recently started Steepleview subdivision, which is located between Paris and Hamilton. Finally, I would be remiss without saying a thank you to Rick Swartz. At the end of 2020, Rick retired from the village council after 30 years of service to the village and has been a loyal and dedicated public servant and has worked tirelessly and cooperative to promote the well-being of the citizens of Minster. His knowledge and experience will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kitzmiller. Congratulations, Rick. Up next, Mayor Parker.
Morning, everyone. I'd just like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for coordinating this event today. And, COVID has made it challenging for us to get together. We had to delay this earlier in the year, and I'm glad we can finally get together. I'd like to thank all the federal, state, and local officials, too, for coming and taking time out of their busy schedules to update us all on what's happening at the federal and state and local levels. This past year, there has been a lot in the news, and I don't want to comment on a lot of it, but there is one thing that I do feel that I want to comment on, and that's there's been a lot of bad press about defunding the police. And I know, doing mayor's court and being involved with the police quite a bit, we are lucky to have the police force we have in this area, and probably nationally also, but the professionalism they exhibit every day is, I want to personally thank them for an outstanding job they do, for all the adversity they face every day. Thank you. This was also a proud year for New Bremen athletics, which we covered earlier. The state football title was brought home. We had state runner-up in volleyball, and the basketball team ended their season in the regionals finals. So, very proud year for New Bremen sports. As far as 2020, we had income tax receipts of $4,407,698. That's a 2.3 reduction from last year. We had expenses of $10,121,623. And you say, well, that seems a little high. Well, it's because we built a new substation out by the bowling alley, and a lot of that was funded by a loan. But, and then we also had fines, fees, and forfeitures of $17,859. Some projects we did get completed. We did get the North Electrical Substation finished. That was primarily required by Crown. They did an expansion on Plant 4. They had some more electrical needs with a power paint system they're putting in that plant. We did a traffic signal upgrade at Washington and Monroe and Main Street. Updated our controls at the water plant with artesian of Pioneer Controls. We completed improvements of the wastewater aerators. We removed 94 of the 100 old aerators and installed 27 new ones. We did a total street reconstruction of Franklin and Ash Streets. We widened 274 at the entrance to the industrial park and Crown. We installed new landscaping at the library. We replaced the roof on the library. The heater was replaced in the swimming pool. That nobody would know it because of the little use that it got last year. We removed the stoplight at Plum and Walnut Street since the school is no longer there. And we poured foundations for 5 more memorial benches in Commons Legacy Park. Then we did the usual crack sealing on several streets within the village, and we also purchased 139 acres of farmland from the Commons Estate. We'll use that for future trading piece for land in New Bremen, hopefully someday, to expand the village. And we did just close on that property last week. Some personnel changes that happened last year. Chris Dickey did retire from the village after 5 years. Brent Richter did assume that role as village administrator. And I want to thank Brent for stepping up. He used to be the chief engineer with Crown for several years, and he did serve on village council for 5 years prior to becoming village administrator. Chad Webker has joined the village council to fill Brent's term. I want to thank Chad for stepping up to fill Brent's unresolved term. Chris McKinney did retire from our police department last year. I want to thank him for his 25 years with the village and his dedication. Angela Hamburg resigned from the village as our economic development director last year. She took a job with Shelby County Regional Planning Commission. I want to thank Angela for her 10 years with the village. She did a nice job for us in that 10 years. And just recently, we hired Adrian Spielman as our new parks manager, who will be starting April the 5th. And then we probably all remember what didn't happen in the village last year. Summer concert series, Bremen Fest, Pumpkin Fest, Fireman's Picnic, all the food trucks, cider time, pool parties, several weddings I had scheduled at the pavilion, the annual garage sales, and Easter egg hunt. The good news is a lot of those events are going to happen this year. So, some projects we do have slated for 2021. We do have the swimming pool fixed that I'm sure many of you are aware. We had leaks in the swimming pool. We had, I think, 6 to 8 major leaks that we found. And we had Schedule 40 pipe that was put in when that swimming pool was built, and they thought that was good back in the day. But now they're putting Schedule 80 pipe in, so we're going to rip up all the underground piping in the swimming pool and put Schedule 80 in. And we're just waiting on the State Department of Health to issue permits so we can get started on that. Hopefully we'll have the pool open in time for the beginning of the season, but we will be open this year. We are working on the bike path and crosswalk. We received a grant of $245,000 to make improvements to the bike path out by the YMCA, and we're also putting a crosswalk in at 274 at Clee for since the school is all on one campus now. We're putting a crosswalk in there with flashing lights so the kids can get across that road safely. Once we get our deed from the state, we will start cleanup on the canal back behind First National Bank all the way out to Amsterdam Road. We recently completed the Walnut Street sanitary line. There's about 5 or 6 homes along State Route 66 that will now be able to hook into the village sanitary system now that they're in the village. The village is working with NK Telco to get fiber connectivity to all of our buildings. We'll be pouring a new concrete apron out at the fire department, working on a policy of behind-the-meter generation in case our village residents do want to put solar panels on their property or on their roofs. We'll be replacing the filter media at the water plant. We'll be replacing the blowers at the wastewater plant. And in 2022, we do plan to do a total street reconstruction of Jefferson Street from Monroe to Clee. In August of this year, you will see Vectron come in, and they will be putting their gas lines in advance of that total street reconstruction. We'll also be doing some work on ball diamond number 3 this spring out at Bremen Fest Park, and that's to accommodate Pony League and junior high teams so they can play on that field, since we no longer have the field where the old school was. We are working on some infrastructure improvements along State Route 274. ODOT's going to come through, I believe, in 2024 and do a repaving on 274 through the village, so we're trying to get all the infrastructure in place before they come through and do that. The one thing everybody is interested in, I'm sure, is the annual garage sales. That will be happening April 16th and 17th. And then the annual cleanup day is scheduled for May 5th. As I mentioned, a lot of events are going to happen this year. We do have a summer concert series that we've got lined up. The fire department is putting together a huge fireman's picnic this year. This is their 100th anniversary. So we're excited about that, and they're telling me it's going to be a fantastic fireworks display. And we're still working to see if we can get some food trucks back in the village this year. That's always a popular item in the village. And then an event that just happened within the last 2 or 3 weeks is many residents noticed we lost power a couple times. And the reason for that is we have a line that comes in from AES, which used to be DP&L. That line is old, and it's got a lot of splices in it, and AES has finally got it in their budget in 2023, I believe, to come through, and they're going to replace the 69 kV line from St. Mary's to New Bremen. And we'll get a brand new line, and they're going to replace or upgrade the substation at the southern part of our village out by Pizza Hut. That's a $23.9 million project for AES, so it's not insignificant. So we thank them for finally taking a look at that. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mayor Parker. That concludes our program. I want to thank everyone for coming this morning. Like I said before, it is very nice to see everybody all together again. If you do have any questions for any of the reps, and they did leave, I do have their contact information, so I can pass that along. A few things I do want to point out. If anybody wants to rewatch it, NK Telco will be replaying this for us, as usual, which is greatly appreciated. Hand sanitizers, waters can go with you. We do have our annual meeting scheduled for May 4th, which also means I would appreciate some nominations for any businesses, business person, or nonprofit special achievement that you feel deserves to be recognized. The deadline on that is April 1st. We will be holding our annual meeting here again, so we can hopefully pack it just as full would be wonderful. But it would be lunchtime, 11:30 to 1-ish. So that's the nominations. You can visit our website, auglaze.org, and click on the news tab. And I also have the annual meeting registration live. So if you want to attend, you can go ahead and do that when you get back to work so I can see you all again. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Have a great day.